This is Savio. I've been seeking answers to some of life's most perplexing questions my entire life. In 2014, I was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer, and ever since, I realized my calling existed outside of what I knew to be familiar. This podcast is your home for survivors like myself and those who are searching to find meaning to their why. In Season 2, the show includes a mix of coaching sessions followed immediately by interviews with those from all walks of life who have been successful in the business, marketing, coaching, and financial worlds. The intent is to show the human experience in its rawest form so that others may glean insight. Nothing is rehearsed or has been edited. As a board-certified wellness coach, my job is to ask the deep questions of those trying to make sense of their place in this fractured world. I believe life speaks to us in different ways. Many of us listen but don't know how or where to begin. As someone who has crossed the bridge between life and death, I say simply, begin where you are now and get busy living. If you liked today's episode, I would appreciate it if you could share it and subscribe. Be sure to tag me at The Human Resolve so I can reciprocate in kind. So without further ado, welcome to the Human Resolve podcast. Terry Tucker has been through 9 years of garbage, which has left him broken and bruised. But his greatest foe cannot take away his spirit for living. He must find that other 60% to change the scorecard from victim to victor. Hi, Terry. It's good to see you.
Hey, Savio. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Sure. So, what would you like coaching on today?
Actually, I'd like to have more patience with people.
You would like to have more patience. Yeah.
Yeah, I talk a lot about, people getting, control of their minds and things like that. And I just have issues when they don't, when it's more like, hey, yeah, this sucks right now, but stop being down here and get yourself off the ground and let's move forward. And I find myself, and again, probably more centered in my chest, like, oh, come on, you can do this. So I guess more patience is something I'm looking to garner from this.
So what I'm hearing is you want sort of more patience in the people that you serve. You find that you kind of want them to move forward, but there's a sort of a personal patience that you want to cultivate. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So what would be a great outcome for today's session?
That I'd walk away with more patience when I'm, dealing with other people that, either are in my same boat or in a similar situation as myself that, and I know it's not right to project my feelings, my thoughts, my, the way I approach things onto other people. That's not fair to them. It's not fair to me, to do that. But yeah, I do find myself getting upset. I don't know, not so much with them, but more with myself. Like, why can't I get these people to move forward? Why are they stuck? Why are they afraid? Why? I'll leave it at why.
So a good outcome would be figuring out that why in the sense of patience. Correct?
Correct.
So has patience showed up in your life?
I think I've spent most of my life, I'm 6'8" tall, and I always think that I was in line too long to get height and I was not in line enough to get patience, because I've never been a patient individual. I've always been uneasy when it comes to things that I want. I want to go at them full tilt, and that's fine for me. But then to project that onto other people that I care about or that I'm with, and now and say, hey, you need to have the same intensity or whatever the word is you want to use that I do, and when you don't, then that makes me uncomfortable.
When you think of patience in general, what are some adjectives or virtues?
That's a great question. I keep wanting to use the word to define the word, and that's obviously not gonna work. But I guess calm, Relaxed. I mean, part of me wants to say, and this isn't the right word, but part of me, not that I don't care, but being in a situation where, I can present this to you and then it's your choice whether or not you choose to sort of pick up the gauntlet and move forward with me, or to say, no, I'm comfortable where I am. I'm happy where I am. I'm scared where I am. And I want to stay in this place. And you're going to have to go on sort of without me, I guess.
You mentioned a couple of words there, calm and relaxed. Where in your body do you feel that the most, this idea of calm and relaxed?
I mean, I think when I'm not patient, I feel it in my chest. I feel it kind of in maybe my upper body, my shoulders, my chest, and things like that, where it just tightens up, and it's like, it's almost like you're getting ready to engage in some type of a fight or a conflict, and you're tensing and you're getting yourself ready for that.
Would you like to explore this tightness in the chest?
Sure.
Okay, just want you to get relaxed in your seat. If you feel inclined, you can soften your gaze or close your eyes to go more inward. Just want you to take 3 deep breaths in and 3 deep breaths out. And we're just going to do a quick body scan. Just want you to breathe into the body parts I mentioned. So the top of the head, the eyes, the nose, the cheeks, the lips, the neck, the upper body, the stomach, the chest, your torso, your legs, your feet. Just take 3 deep breaths in and 3 deep breaths out. I just want you to recall a time when you felt this impatience in your chest. Describe it to me.
I guess it's just a tightening of the muscles in my chest and in my upper body, my shoulders, across my chest, from shoulder to shoulder. Just a tightness of the muscles.
Does it have a shape of any kind?
No, I wouldn't say no.
No. If it could speak, what would it say?
Calm down. Relax. Take it easy. Don't be so stressed.
Have you always heeded its advice?
No. I'd say probably just the opposite. I rarely heed it. I mean, I think, in a lot of ways it goes back to I was in athletics my entire life up through college, and, it's sort of just that engaging. It's time to engage. It's time to compete. It's time to get out there and go after it. And relaxing, I don't know, maybe relaxing would have made me a better player, but I'm 60 years old, and at this point in time, I'm not saying I can't change. I certainly can, but it's just the way I have been up to this point in my life.
What would life be like if you did listen to it?
It would probably, it wouldn't probably, it would be more relaxed. It would be more calm. It would be more centered.
Would you still achieve the things you've achieved?
Not sure I know the answer to that question. I mean, maybe not. Maybe yes for some things and maybe no for others. And don't ask me what those some things are, because I'm not sure I can tell you.
Is there anyone in your life that you look up to when it comes to having patience?
I mean, my wife and I were talking about this before the show about, what are you going to say? What are you going to, and she said the same. She said, yeah, that should be what I ask for, more patience and things like that. I mean, I think for me, being fairly religious in that, I mean, God, somebody who it's just, like I'm in control. You don't need to be, I've got this all worked out. Don't try so hard.
You mentioned being very competitive in your college days. How does that show up in your life now?
I've always been a competitive person. I've always wanted to be the best person that I could possibly be, and I don't like losing, although I've certainly lost a lot in my life, lost people, lost relationships, lost jobs, lost things that, lost basketball games, lost, things like that. So, I mean, loss is certainly a huge part of life. I get that. You need to accept it. You need to learn from it. You need to move on from it and that. But I don't like, I want myself and everybody that I come in contact with to be the best person they could possibly be. And again, sometimes I project what I believe their best person should be. And that's not right. It's certainly not fair to them.
So what does Terry want?
I want to be the best person I can possibly be.
What's the fight of your life right now?
Oh, the fight of my life is absolutely the cancer that is attacking my body.
And what's your relationship to that cancer?
It's a foe.
It's a foe.
It is.
Tell me more.
It's an adversary. It doesn't belong here. On the one hand, on the other hand, it's made me a better person. It's made me stronger. It's made me more resilient. It's made me have to control my mind more. So it's definitely, I guess I've used it to make me a better person. It's not something I want. It's not something that if somebody, offered, say, hey, I can take this away from you, I wouldn't be like, oh, absolutely not. It'd be like, it's gone. It's gone now. And I've been dealing with this since 2012, so a little over 9 years now. And it's been an adversary. It's taken my foot, took my leg last year, but it hasn't taken me.
Hasn't taken you. If I was a scorekeeper, how does it shake up?
I mean, I'm losing. I'm losing in the probably the battle, if you want to call it that. I'm losing in my. It's gaining ground in my body, and by that, if you want to put it on a scorecard, it's the more ground it gains, the less life that I have, the less time that I have. So from that perspective, yeah, it's definitely gaining ground.
If cancer was, personified as an opponent, what do you think it wants from you?
My life.
Any idea why?
That's what it's supposed to do. I mean, that's what it was designed to do. I mean, it's whether we like it or not. I mean, we all have, these abnormal cells in our body and things like that. And mine just happened to get out of control and has, like I said, it's cost me my foot, cost me my leg. But, I think back to the old I don't know how many years ago, Jim Valvano, the basketball coach, North Carolina State, who had that great speech on the ESPYs when he received the award. Cancer can't take, I don't know what, can't touch my heart, can't touch my mind, can't touch my spirit, my soul. And I, back then I didn't understand it. I certainly understand it now. It can't. It can take my body, but it can't take who I am.
You mentioned a few things there that coach mentioned. If you check in with your heart, what does it want to do with your heart?
I mean, my physical heart, I think it wants to take it over, but the emotional side, the love part of it and stuff like that. I mean, it certainly has given me the opportunity to be more centered, for lack of a better word. To appreciate the things that are really important in life, money, power, prestige, all those kind of things, not important. Can't take them with you when you go, but you certainly can take the love with you. So it's certainly given me a better perspective of how important love is to put that out into the world. I mean, I think especially in today's society, when we're screaming at each other so much and everybody's so polarized, why can't we treat each other better? Why can't we put more love into the world? Why can't we be kinder to people and stuff like that? I mean, that's kind of where I am right now with whatever time I do have left.
And if cancer was something you could talk to, what do you think you need from cancer right now?
I mean, I mean, physically, I need a break. I just, which I won't get, and I know that, and it's just a matter of, I get treated for an entire week, and then I get 2 weeks off. I'm in the 2-week off period right now, and what they're doing to treat it is helping. It is shrinking the tumors, and I'm able to breathe better and different things like that. So, but I could certainly use a break. But like I said, I'm not going to get a break. It's not going to give up, and neither am I. One of us is going to win.
So, how can you give yourself a competitive advantage here?
That's a great question. I mean, I don't know if I have an answer to that. I mean, I think I'm at a situation where I think I'm doing everything physically that I can be doing. I think I'm doing the traditional route that my doctors are recommending, and then I also how I eat and what I eat, what I don't eat, and things like that to try to mitigate that. You don't have to be a rocket science to know that when they want to see what where the cancer is in your body, they give you a PET scan, which is basically injecting radioactive sugar in your body. And, it doesn't take a genius to say, well, you do that because the cancer will take up that radioactive sugar at a higher rate than a higher metabolism than the rest of your cells. Well, probably shouldn't be eating a whole lot of sugar, at least not a whole lot of processed sugar and things like that. I mean, obviously fruits and vegetables and things like that may contain sugar. Sure. I mean, that's something that we can use. So, I mean, I think I'm doing everything I can do to fight it. I mean, I know I'm not quitting. I know I'm not giving up. I won't. I mean, if it's going to kill me, then it's going to kill me. But I'm going down fighting. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. How does your support system look like?
I've got a great support system. I've got a wife and daughter that have been with me through the beginning. My daughter was in high school. Our daughter was in high school when this occurred, and my wife and I made a conscious decision we will not lie to her. We will tell her what's going on. Obviously, back then, age appropriate for what she could understand and things like that. I mean, now she's an adult, so she's involved in all this, and they're probably my support systems. I kind of tell that it's sort of a funny story. After I had the leg amputated, and I knew my doctor wanted to recommend chemotherapy for the tumors in my lungs, and I was like, I don't think I want to do that. I just don't think I want to put myself through that. And I remember coming home and talking to my daughter and my wife, and we had a family meeting, and we took a vote, and I was outvoted 2-1, and so now I'm doing chemotherapy. So my support system those are the people that I rely on. I mean, I talk about, a lot of times I talk about the 3 F's, faith, family, and friends. I have a tremendous faith. I realize God has this under control, although there are a lot of times I don't let him control it, that I try to control it. I have family that care about me. I have, 2 brothers. My mother's still alive and things like that. Good support system there. And I have, a decent amount of friends, although I will tell you that when I got cancer, there were people that I thought were friends that this scared, and they kind of backed off and backed away. And that's something they've got to deal with. People can ask me anything they want about the disease, about, having limbs amputated and things like that, about how I feel about death, about I've planned my own funeral, I've got everything worked out, it's all, and people say, well, that's defeatist. I'm like, well, no, that's a gift to my family, who I'm sure will deal with a very difficult time as I die, and then has to plan the entire service and everything. No, I don't want them to have to do that. I just need them to make one phone call, and it's all taken care of. So that was something that I was adamant about doing, especially this last time when I found out I was going to need my leg amputated and that I had these tumors in the lungs. So yeah, the 3 F's kind of sustained me through this. I would have a very, very hard time doing this by myself.
And so how does the day-to-day obstacles work for you? How do you get through them?
I am kind of a head-on kind of guy. Although I'm also smart enough to realize that, sometimes hitting your head against the wall isn't the best way to get there. Sometimes you need to go over or around or through to make whatever you need to take care of. And, for me, it was, when I lost my foot, it was learning to walk again. When I lost my leg, I have not been physically at a point where I can use a prosthetic leg. I have a prosthetic leg. I just haven't had I'm so depleted during the week that I'm in therapy, and then usually for the week afterwards. And then that second week is kind of a crapshoot. Maybe you're feeling better, maybe you're not. I only get so many physical therapy visits. So I've talked to my doctor about, look, I need some time to learn to walk again. And that. So, that's an obstacle that, is there. It's something that I need to control, but it's also something that I'm smart enough to realize that, I don't want to do a physical therapy visit and then I can't be with the physical therapist for 2 months, and everything we built on, now we got to start over with again. So, yeah. So I guess that's kind of where I am with that.
So Terry, if I just had an ability to create it's a magic for you right now with the game of your life, tell me, what would that look like?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
If I had the ability to create a wish for you in this game of your life right now, you and cancer,
I wish you'd take it away.
So what would life look like if I took it away? Boy, that's a great question. Having dealt with this for 9 years, it's so entrenched in our lives. Yeah.
To be able to just do the things that our neighbors do. Even now with COVID, it's like, no, I can't go to that event. I can't do that kind of thing. Or I shouldn't say I can't. I certainly can, but the risks are not something that I guess I want to do right now. I had a friend of mine's wife die, and I'm not vaccinated yet, so I'm like, I can't come to the funeral. I can support you in other ways, but I can't come to the funeral. It's certainly. I haven't worked in 9 years. that this has consumed my life for the last 9 years, and certainly the life of my family, and you think you're good, and then, it pops back up on you, and you're like, okay, now we're going back into fight mode. We got to go back and get it. And, I have no doubt that at a certain point in time, I will have exhausted all the tools in the toolbox, and then it's just going to be a matter of, will it win? Will it take over the rest of my body? Yeah, probably it will. And that's okay. I'm not saying that, I have certainly made peace with that, because I feel that I have found my purpose in life. I have lived that purpose. So death doesn't really scare me. It's not something that, I'm really apprehensive about. In a way, excuse me, based on my faith, I really kind of feel almost excited to see what's on the other side of life, or death, however you want to put it. So I don't know what not having cancer would look like. I would have to sort of reinvent myself to figure that out.
So what would be that first step to reinvent yourself?
What would that first step be? I guess just, I mean, for me, the first step would be to try to learn to walk again, to try to be able to be more self-sufficient. We're fortunate. We have a house with a main floor master. So, it's been a year since I've had my leg amputated. I have not been upstairs. I have not been down in the basement, just because it's physically difficult to do. So everything is on one level. The only time I go out of the house is literally to go to the hospital for treatments. I always laugh when, I go for a test at the hospital. It's like, have you traveled outside the United States in the last 30 days? Usually look at the person and say, geez, I haven't traveled outside the house in the last 30, So it's kind of a joke, but it's true. And that, so I guess kind of opening myself up more to the experiences that are going on that I know that I'm missing out on would probably be something. It certainly would be something I'd want to get. I would like to get going on.
Can you make those incremental moves right now?
Yeah, I think so. We've got our shot scheduled to get the vaccine, and I think we're moving in that direction. And yeah, we have kind of that. We have we live in a cul-de-sac, so the guys in the neighborhood, we used to get together and go to restaurants and stuff like that for lunch, once a month or something like that. Now we kind of do driveway lunches where we're socially distanced, but we all kind of hang out. And, it was warm here last weekend, so we kind of had our first one of the year. And those are incredibly enjoyable for me, to kind of catch up with these guys. And they're all much younger than I am and stuff. And, I have small kids and things like that. So we're all at little different stages of life, but we have a great time when we get together and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think that, certainly winter makes it a little more difficult with weather to do things. And now that spring's here and we're kind of opening up, I have no doubt that I'll get more engaged with that.
So Terry, we spoke a lot about sort of this idea of patience. How does this all shake up right now for you?
That's a great question. We kind of explored a whole lot more than patience there, I guess, didn't we? I spend my time, and I think I've talked to you about this off the air. I spend my sort of 2 weeks that I have off, depending on how I'm feeling, doing podcasts with doing other podcasts where, I try to here's how I try to live my life. By controlling my mind, by taking that pain and by doing all this kind of stuff. And I believe in it. I don't just believe in it. It resonates with me. It's in my heart. It's in my soul. It's kind of who I am. It's kind of how I have come to survive all this garbage. And, I have these 4 truths that I literally, with my faith and these 4 truths, those are how I make decisions in my life, and whereas a lot of people move away from pain. Our brains are hardwired to avoid pain, seek pleasure. For me, I've kind of done just the opposite. I've had so much of it that I've just now taken it and turned it inside, use it as fuel, use it as energy to make me stronger, to make me more determined. And it goes back to the patience thing. It works for me. I found a way to make it work, and I try to expound on that and so that other people can maybe use it and maybe work for them. And when I see people that don't, or that, are just down and choose to stay down. I mean, we all get down. Don't get me wrong. I get down. Bad things happen. I've got to go for treatment on Mondays. Sunday won't be a great day, but I choose not to stay there. And again, I'm not talking about people that are clinically depressed and need medication and things like that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the everyday things that we all deal with in life. I lost my job, I lost my spouse or girlfriend, I had a car accident, whatever. It was a bad day. Okay, well, it's your choice whether to stay in that bad place or to get up. So I want people to realize they can do a whole lot more than they think they can.
So what do you think the answer is between patience and doing?
I don't know if I am qualified to make that decision for other people, I guess is really the answer. I mean, I can present the information, and then it's up to you to take it. And it's up to you to say, yeah, that worked for me, or, that didn't work for me. And like I say, I don't have all the answers. I don't, there's no S on my chest, and I don't wear a cape, so I don't have all the answers. But I think I have been doing this long enough and have been involved in this, as I call it, all this garbage for so many years now, that I figured out a way to have a good life without constantly being depressed and and I certainly, I think if you look, I haven't really described everything, but if you look at my circumstances for the last 9 years, it's kind of the old Winston Churchill quote, when you're going through hell, keep going. It's like, I don't think too many people would look at me and say, yeah, you didn't really go through hell. I've been through hell, but I've learned how to take that and use it to make me stronger as opposed to make me weaker. So I guess just putting it out there and let people do with it what they want is probably the best way to handle it.
Putting it out there and let people do what they want. And how does that feel in your chest? You described earlier it being constricted.
Yeah, I mean I guess I've never been a person that's quit. I've never been a person that's given up. I've never been somebody who's just threw in the towel and say that's it. Like I say, don't get me wrong. There are certainly days that are tough. I mean, there were days early on when I literally prayed to die. It's just I hurt so bad and I was in so much pain. And I get that. And I realize that, we all have a certain threshold of pain. And I don't care who you are. I mean, there's a certain threshold that we all have, and we just can't take more than that. And we have to do whatever we have to do to try to get ourselves out of it. But I don't know. I don't know how to answer your question, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, Terry, we're coming pretty much at the end of this sort of coaching portion. But if this was a sort of the pages of your life and this was a chapter, what would the chapter title be?
I don't know. I guess if I had to have one word or something like that, it'd probably be perseverance, grit. Perseverance. Something like that. What I learned over the last 9 years or something like that.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I think this is a good point to sort of transition into the interview section. So tell my listeners more about you and your story.
So I born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, oldest of 3 boys. I mean, you can't tell this, but I'm 6'8", and I played basketball in college. Got a brother that's 6'7" that was a pitcher for the University of Notre Dame, and I got another brother who was 6'6" who was drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers, and in the National Basketball Association. And then my dad was 6'5", but my 5'8" mother was the boss of all of us, And like I said, athletics, huge part of my life, always has been growing up. When I graduated from college, I was the first person in my family to graduate from college. And my first job out of college was in the marketing department at Wendy's International, the hamburger chain. From there, I went to hospital administration. Then I really kind of lived my passion. I always wanted to be in law enforcement. My grandfather was a Chicago police officer from 1924 to 1954. So was in that, time of prohibition and the gangs shooting up Chicago and Al Capone and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't want to be a policeman because of that. My grandfather died when I was like 6 or 7, so I really didn't know him very well. But my grandmother, his wife, lived until I was in college. So I always kind of heard the stories and that. And that was my passion. And my dad was dead set against it. And my dad was my hero. And so I didn't want to do anything to upset him when I got out of college. I got that first job at Wendy's, but I also lived with my parents for the next 3.5 years as I helped my mom care for my dad and my grandmother, who were both living with us in the same house, who were both dying of different forms of cancer. So cancer is kind of always, seems like it's always been in my life, or, at some point has always touched it. But wanting to be in law enforcement, I kind of joke, I did what every good son did. I waited till my dad passed away to follow my dreams, so... So I did, law enforcement, and I was a undercover narcotics investigator. I was on the SWAT team as a hostage negotiator. I loved doing that. It was a great job. But, as I alluded to earlier, the 3 F's, faith, family, and friends. My wife is the primary breadwinner, lost her job, and we had to move. So I had to give that up. Started a school security consulting business and became a high school basketball coach, and that's kind of how the cancer started. I had a callus break open on the bottom of my foot, and didn't think much of it because I was a coach. I was on my feet a lot, and then when it didn't heal, I went to a friend of mine who was a podiatrist, and he ended up doing the normal things. I'll put pads in your shoes and stuff like that. And then when that didn't work, he took an X-ray, and I had a cyst in there, and he cut it out, and said, "I've seen thousands of these, no big deal." Well, it was a big deal. It was this very rare form of melanoma. And he said, you should be treated at MD Anderson, which is probably one of the best cancer hospitals in the States. I had 2 surgeries, and then I was put on a drug called interferon to kind of keep the disease from coming back. And I took a weekly interferon injection for 4 years and 7 months before I ended up in the intensive care unit with a fever of 108 degrees due to the toxicity of the drug. But it kept the disease away. But I had the flu for 2 or 3 days every week for almost 5 years. So, imagine having the flu, you get chills, nausea, vomiting, headache, body, the whole thing for 2 or 3 days every week for 5 years. And I remember when my doctor said, I want to put you on this drug, and here's what it's going to do to you. And I kind of looked at her like, you're nuts. I mean, what idiot's is going to want to do this? And she's like, well, you. So I did. And then the disease came back, and, I kind of went through that. So that's kind of my life. That's kind of where I am now. And like I said, I'm on this clinical trial and am doing well in terms of, some of the other people are not showing any reaction at all. I am showing a decrease in the size of my tumors. So I'm fortunate in that regard.
So earlier you mentioned going through 9 years of garbage. If someone's listening right now and they're just smelling that stench, what would you say to them?
I tell them to, I tell them to keep going. I tell them that, that, and I've seen this over the course of 9 years where people really kind of get to the end. And they're just physically and mentally and emotionally depleted. I mean, they have nothing left to give. And I remember my own self being in that situation. I was on a biologic therapy of 2 drugs that they tried before they amputated my foot that didn't work. But the side effects of those drugs were terrible. And I remember the sort of the culmination was I woke up in the middle of the night thinking I was having a heart attack. I couldn't breathe. I was having chest pain, and my wife took me to the emergency room, and it was actually a reaction from the drugs where I had a blood clot in my lung and fluid around the sac of my heart. But I remember laying on the gurney, laying on the table in the emergency room, and everybody running around doing stuff, and my wife there, and literally with tears rolling down my cheeks. I looked at my wife and I said, just please let me die. Just let me out of this. Let me get out of this. And I remembered, and I don't know why, maybe because it wasn't my time. I remembered a story that I had read about the owner of a professional sports team here in the United States that paid a United States Navy SEAL, probably one of the toughest group of people, soldiers, men in the world, to come and live with his family for a month and teach them to use their mind to do more than their bodies ever thought they can do. And one of the things he talked about was the 40% rule. And this rule says that if you're at the end of your rope, if you think you're done, you can't do another push-up, you can't run another mile, you don't want to fight this pain anymore, that you're only at 40% of your maximum, and you still have 60% left to give to yourself. And I remember kind of going to that sort of place inside, that we all have, with all these doctors and nurses and technicians running around, and just telling myself, no, you're not done. You have more to give. So I think we sell ourselves short, that we still have a lot more that we can do. We still have, well, I don't think I can do any more. I'm at the end. No, you're not. You have more that you can give to yourself. It's just a matter of whether or not you want to do that or not.
Yeah. I love that story, Terry. It actually brought me back. As you know, I'm a stage 3 cancer survivor myself, and I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, and I remember 3 days into it having this epiphany that I am more than just my body, that there is Savio, who's in the hospital, who's just got diagnosed with stage 3 cancer, and then there's the other part of Savio that obviously wants to live and had my experiences, and I was somehow able to separate the two and say to myself, I'll do the treatment plan, but I need to do what I need to do for my soul, for my emotions, for my, all the other sort of areas of my life. And it just sort of brought me back to that moment. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. And as you know, that's, that we have these parts. And I had a nurse ask me, what it was like, to have my foot amputated and my leg amputated. And I kind of told her the same thing you just said. I said, I am more than the sum of my parts. You can lop off whatever you want to lop off. You can lop off an arm or another leg, whatever you want. That's not who I am. That's just who I am. That's what contains who I am, I guess, for lack of a better, kind of like an egg. We throw away the shell, but what's really important is the innards. That's kind of the way I looked at it. We're so much more. Our soul, our heart, our mind, and cancer can't do anything to that. It can do something to the outside, but it can't do anything to the inside.
So I'm going to ask you a big question now.
Okay.
What would your legacy like to be?
I've been asked that before on several podcasts, and I don't have any great aspirations that nobody's ever going to name a road after me or a building or anything. That's never going to happen. And I guess my legacy is I want to put as much positivity, as much goodness, as much love back into the world with whatever time that I have left. And it's one of the four truths is what you leave behind is what you weave in the hearts of other people. And I think that's all our legacy. How I touch you, how you touch me, how your audience is touched by our discussion and things like that. That's what we're weaving into the hearts of other people. And if we weave good things, if we weave that love, that positivity, that goodness, then I think even if we're not remembered, the experience that those people have that come after us. I always ask people, especially when I talk, think about the end game of your life. What are people going to say about you at your funeral? And maybe more importantly, would your ancestors be happy with the life that you led? That you led? I look back on, I'm part Irish, I'm part German. I look back on, with all these people that struggled, that, to come over here and to build a life and things like that. And I am so much better off than they are. Would they be happy? Would they be proud of the life that I led? I hope so. But I always ask people that, think about those people. Think about your great, great, great grandmother and father. Would they be happy with what you've done with your life? Just get people to think sort of about the big picture.
So what would you hope people say about you?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't, it's funny. I don't spend a lot of time worrying about what other people say or think about me. I do what I feel is right for me. Like I said, I don't fear death because I think I've found and lived my purpose. And really my purpose now is to help other people find and live their purpose. I wrote a book last year, and part of the impetus of that book was a conversation I had with a former player who had moved to where my wife and I live, and we had dinner with her, and I remember saying to her, I'm really glad you're kind of living close because I can watch you find and live your purpose. And she got real quiet. She was like, well, Coach, what do you think my purpose is? I said, I don't know what your purpose is. That's what your life should be about, finding that purpose. And then once you find it, live it. So I hope people say, you know what? He found his purpose. He lived it. He made a difference. And now it's time to move on.
I love that. That could not be said better. Well, thank you, Terry. This was a seriously fascinating session with you. I really appreciate it,
Savio. Thank you very much for it's people like you that, give people like me an opportunity. And I think between the two of us, hopefully we made a difference in somebody's life.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Hi there. I really hope you enjoyed listening to today's podcast episode of The Human Resolve. If you feel that others may enjoy this episode as well, please share socially at The Human Resolve. They can also visit my website, thehumanresolve.com, where I offer one-on-one coaching sessions, daily prompts to move you in the right direction, sync directly to your smartphone, and a subscription to my weekly newsletter where I probe into the secrets from living smarter to feeding your 3 brains. If you could also help me out and give me a review and rating on this platform, because I do care what you have to say, I would really appreciate it. Now, get out there, my friends, and get busy living.